Now, as we mentioned, legislative leaders and the governor say the budget will be passed on time, or perhaps even early, for the first time since 1983. Now, ironically, that was back when Governor Cuomo's father, Mario Cuomo, was in his first term. There are some issues that still need to be resolved, including how to distribute most of that more than $200 million worth of education funding that will be restored to the budget. And of course, you can't pass a budget without a majority of lawmakers voting yes. And it remains to be seen how many rank-and-file legislators will actually get on board with this very painful plan that lacks both a property tax cap and extension of the rent laws. Here to talk more about the home stretch of this budget process is Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos. He's joining us from the Capitol. Senator, thank you very much for your time.
Great to be with you.
So this is being cast as a big win for Andrew Cuomo. Do you see it that way as well, or do you think you might have had something to do with it?
Well, I think the entire legislature had something to do with it, but certainly the governor deserves credit for putting a budget together with the legislature that really deals with the deficit that exists, $10 billion, in a very efficient, long-term way. The budget, the way it's crafted now, will eliminate this year's deficit and also bring down next year's projected deficit from $15 billion to $2 billion, which is certainly manageable. So it is a win for the governor, but I also think that the Senate Republicans have had many wins. No taxes. We pledged that there would be no tax increases in this budget. There aren't any. The government had to live within its means, cut spending, and that's happening. And also, there's the budget will move in the direction of empowering the private sector to create jobs. So it's about cutting government spending, cutting taxes, and job creation.
So, Senator, you spoke yesterday at that press conference, and I was actually there in the Red Room, about trust, that you are going to have to trust the administration when it comes to prison closures. You actually couldn't get to an agreement on criteria. I spoke to Senator Nozzolio about criteria for prison closures, and you actually are closing more beds than you expected, 3,700 instead of 3,500. How is that a win for the Republicans?
Well, it's number one, there's an understanding that there have to be a reduction of beds. We've also worked very closely with the governor, and he understands that many of the upstate communities, that prisons are their main economic engine, and he is sensitive to that. He will be consulting with the Senate and the Assembly as to the eventual reduction in beds, and I'm optimistic, and in government there has to be some trust that he will do it in such a way that will have a less amount of harm as possible.
You know, there's been a lot of talk about that extender threat that was hanging over your head, the legislature's head, I mean collectively. And do you think that the governor threatened you into this or frightened you into it in some way, that he held all the cards?
I mean, I can speak for our conference, Republican conference. The answer is no. We've been in sync pretty much with the governor right along with his budget proposal. We felt that there was an inequitable cut in aid to education throughout the state. So the restoration will cure that, and certainly many of the upstate rural communities and small cities were unfairly impacted as compared to other regions, and that's going to be corrected with the restorations that we've made. Also, there was an agreement that many of the cost shifts that the governor claimed as cuts at the state level would really just shift the cost to local governments and property tax increases. So we all agreed that that had to be stopped, and we worked it out. So bottom line here, there was communication. There wasn't yelling and screaming. When you shout at each other, you don't hear what the other person is saying. Then you're not listening to each other.
So a characterization of Andrew Cuomo as the new and effective steamroller, you think, is not correct?
No, I don't believe so, and I don't think he really wants to be referred to this way. He had a vision as to what direction the state should go. He proposed that in his February budget and also in his March amendments. We have $132 billion budget, 132.5, and we've stayed within that framework, the legislature and the governor. So I believe it's the government functioning You know, there's a lot of talk about dysfunction in Albany, and I'm removing the part of that, and we are now functioning.
Okay.
We followed the Budget Reform Act of 2007, which was ignored in the past 2 years under all Democrat rule. And now we've seen that the chaos that existed for 2 years is gone, and government is functioning as it should.
Senator.
And right now with a bipartisan basis.
If I may just interrupt for 1 second, I'm sorry. Regarding the education aid, though, we don't know how that's going to be allocated yet. I mean, first of all, you're talking about $230 some odd million. I mean, when you're speaking straight restoration from schools, not the 4021 schools, not the summer employment programs,
right.
Straight restoration. We don't know where it's going. Senator Flanagan speaks of regional balance. You said the same yesterday. Do we know what percentage is going to the city on Long Island versus
we know
upstate?
that it's going to be very close in terms of the percentage of the cuts will be very close to what the regional balance was when it came to increases. Unfortunately, in the past, when Republicans were not in control in the Senate, we saw a regional imbalance when it came to upstate and Long Island, whether it was with increases or with cuts. Now we've restored what are considered the traditional shares with the city, the island, and upstate New York.
Okay, so we obviously are not done. The session is not ending until June, and there are some sticking points out there, some undone issues, including the property tax cap, with which members of your delegation from Long Island suggested perhaps might not get done at all this session. Is that true?
No, I think it's very important to note that we've passed the property tax cap.
Yes, yes.
We've passed Governor Cuomo's program bill. So I think what's important now is to work on mandate relief, but to also get the Assembly to pass Governor Cuomo's program bill, which we've already passed.
Well, but are you willing to sacrifice property tax relief in exchange for making sure that the rent control laws aren't strengthened?
No, there's no need to link the two. We've passed the property tax cap, and at some point we'll deal with rent control extensions. Those do not expire until June 15th. Bottom line is we've passed the property tax cap. The Assembly has not done so. We have partnered with Governor Cuomo in passing it. Over 80% of the people support a property tax cap. We've done our job. We are now working aggressively, working with local governments, different groups to find mandate relief for school districts and municipalities and to move forward. Now,
you know, just imparting, Mayor Bloomberg, who gave almost $1 million, if I'm not mistaken, to the Senate GOP to help the Republicans win back control of the chamber, is calling this budget an outrage. I wonder what you think of that.
Well, we've done the best we can in terms of restoring money throughout the state. It's a difficult budget. Difficult choices have been made. And I think Mayor Bloomberg, obviously as an advocate for the city, is going to say what he's going to say, but I think all regions of the state, people are going to not be totally happy with this budget. But it's a realistic budget. Deficit, we're not raising taxes. Mayor Bloomberg said don't raise taxes. It would be the worst thing you could do. We have to control government spending. That's what the mayor's doing. And both the city and the rest of the state, we have to be focused on private sector job creation.
Okay, and so we expect to be seeing budget bills start passing when exactly?
Say that again, Liz?
We'll be seeing the bills start to pass when?
I'm hoping to pass the bill on Wednesday so that we can be not only on time, but early, just as the first Governor Cuomo was in his first term. Okay, well, we'll be keeping tabs on that. In the meantime, I want to thank you very much, Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos. It's great to see you. Thanks.